me last night. I watched my parents' wedding video for the first time. I'd never seen it before. The file had been sitting on an old hard drive for years. I wasn't expecting anything unusual, just an old family video. I clicked play. The video opened inside a small church. The picture was soft and grainy, the kind of quality you'd expect from something recorded in 1995. Every few seconds, the camera shook slightly as the person filming adjusted their grip. It felt less like watching a video and more like looking through someone else's memories. My dad looked younger. My mom couldn't stop laughing. Every time the camera found her face, she was laughing at something. She looked happy seeing them before I was even born. So young, so full of plans, completely unaware of everything that would happen over the next 30 years. For the first half hour, nothing felt unusual. Family members hugged each other. Kids chased one another between the pews. People waved at the camera whenever they noticed it. Exactly what you'd expect from an ordinary wedding. Then the timestamp reached 37:42. The cameraman slowly turned away from the altar. The lens drifted across the crowd, moving from one table to the next. An elderly couple, a group of laughing cousins, two little girls dancing together. Nothing seemed out of place. Then the camera reached the back of the room. My smile disappeared. There was someone standing alone, far away from everyone else, wearing a black suit at first. I barely noticed him, just another guest. Then my eyes moved back. Something about him felt wrong. I leaned a little closer to the screen. The camera kept moving. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I grabbed the mouse and dragged the timeline backward. A few seconds before the camera reached the back row, then I pressed play again. The camera slowly crossed the room, past another table, past a family talking near the wall. Then, there he was again, standing in exactly the same spot. I paused the video. My apartment suddenly felt completely silent. I leaned toward the monitor until I was only inches away. Maybe I was seeing things. The quality wasn't great. Maybe my brain was filling in details that weren't actually there. I zoomed in. The image became blurrier, but not blurry enough. Same face, same hair, same height. Then I saw it. The small mole on the left side of his neck. Without thinking, my hand reached for my own neck, right where mine had always been. A cold chill spread through my body. It wasn't someone who looked like me. It wasn't someone who reminded me of myself. It was me. I pushed my chair back so quickly it rolled across the room. This doesn't make any sense. My voice barely sounded like my own. I looked back at the screen. The man wasn't looking at the camera. He wasn't talking to anyone. He wasn't even moving. He was just watching my parents standing together at the altar. Then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. His face, tears. They were running down his cheeks. Not one or two. He wasn't trying to hide them. He just stood there, silently crying like he already knew something no one else in that church did. I felt my stomach tighten. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe it only looked that way because of the video quality. I rewound the footage. Once. Nothing changed. Twice. Still there. 3 times. Same face. Same suit. Same tears. By the 5th replay, I wasn't trying to prove myself wrong anymore. I was trying to understand how something impossible could exist. I picked up my phone. For a few seconds, I just stared at my mom's contact. Then I pressed call. She answered on the 2nd ring. "Hey, sweetheart." "Mom." The words caught in my throat. "I need to ask you something." "Sure." "Did Dad ever have a brother?" There was a brief pause. "No." "What about a cousin?" "What kind of cousin?" "Someone who looked exactly like me." Silence. A long silence. Then, "Why are you asking that?" I couldn't explain it, not over the phone. Instead, I opened the screenshot I'd taken from the video and sent it to her. "Look at the picture I just sent." I waited. The line went completely silent. I could hear her breathing. Then, the call disconnected. She'd hung up. I stared at my phone. "Mom?" Before I could call back, my phone started ringing. It was her. Only 40 seconds had passed. I answered immediately. "Mom?" Her voice was shaking, not confused, not surprised, scared. "Come to the house." "What?" "Right now." "Mom, what's going on?" Another silence. Then she said something that made every hair on my arm stand up. "Don't tell your father." The call ended. I slowly lowered the phone. The apartment was completely quiet again. Only the faint hum of my laptop filled the room. I looked back at the paused wedding video. The man in the back row was still there, still crying, still watching my parents, like he already knew how their story ended. And somehow, For the first time that night, I had the feeling he was waiting for me. I don't remember grabbing my keys. 1 minute I was staring at the screen. The next, I was locking my apartment door behind me. The drive to my parents' house usually took 20 minutes. That night, it felt like I was driving through someone else's memory. I kept replaying the image in my head. The suit, the tears, the mole. Every logical explanation I came up with fell apart before I could even believe it. Every explanation sounded ridiculous. Someone edited the video. No. Someone who looked exactly like me? Even worse. Nothing made sense anymore. No. There was no explaining that. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. The harder I tried to stop thinking about it, the worse it became. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway, my stomach was in knots. The porch light was on. Mom was already outside. She wasn't sitting on the porch. She wasn't watering the flowers. She was standing in the driveway, waiting. The moment she saw my headlights, she started walking toward my car. I climbed out. Before I could ask a single question, she asked one instead. "Did your father see the picture?" I shook my head. No. She let out a breath she'd clearly been holding. "Good." She glanced toward the house. "He's working late." Then she looked back at me. "Come inside." The house felt exactly the way it always had. The family photos were still hanging on the walls. Dad's reading glasses were sitting on the coffee table. The television was off. Everything looked normal, but somehow, nothing felt normal anymore. Mom led me into the kitchen. She didn't sit down immediately. She just looked at me, like she'd been waiting years for this conversation. Finally, she pulled out a chair. So, I sat across from her. Neither of us spoke. The silence stretched on until it almost became uncomfortable. Then she quietly asked, "Have you ever felt like you've already lived this exact day before?" I frowned. "What?" "This day." She didn't look away. "This conversation. You driving here. You walking through that front door." She glanced around the kitchen. "This exact moment." A strange feeling settled in my chest because, yes, all morning, something had felt different. I'd reached for my phone a second before it rang. I'd slowed down at a traffic light before it changed. Even driving here, every turn had felt strangely familiar, like I wasn't making decisions. I was remembering them. I stared at her. "How did you know?" She didn't answer. Instead, she unlocked her phone, opened her photo gallery, and slid it across the table. It was a picture of me, standing outside, wearing the exact same clothes I had on right now. Same jacket, same jeans, same shoes. "When did you take this?" "I didn't." I looked up. "What does that mean?" She tapped the information icon. The photo details opened. I looked down. My eyes stopped on the date. I blinked, looked again. Still, there has to be a mistake. I thought that too. She quietly took the phone back. Then she opened another picture, and another, and another. Different years, different places. A birthday party, a family barbecue Christmas, an old vacation photo. Every single picture had me somewhere in the background, always watching. Sometimes standing across the street, sometimes near a tree, sometimes so far away. I would have missed myself if I wasn't looking. But every picture had one thing in common. I never changed. Same age, same face, same clothes. Like time had frozen only for me. Then I noticed something else. Every picture I was crying. The tears were easy to miss, but once I saw them, I couldn't stop seeing them. I slowly looked back at Mom. "Why am I crying?" For a second, she didn't answer. Then she quietly said, "I've been asking myself that question for 28 years. She stood up. Without another word, she disappeared down the hallway. I sat there alone. My eyes drifted toward the family pictures hanging on the wall. For the first time, I wondered how many times I'd walked past them without noticing myself hidden somewhere in the background. A minute later, Mom came back carrying an old yellow envelope. She didn't hand it to me immediately. She just stood there, looking at it, like every time she opened it. She hoped the words inside had somehow changed. Finally, she placed it on the table between us. The paper was faded. The edges were worn. It had been opened so many times that the fold marks were beginning to split. "Read it." I reached for the envelope. Before I even pulled the letter out, I recognized the handwriting. My heart sank, because it was mine. For a long moment, I just stared at the envelope. My fingers rested on the edge of the paper, but I couldn't bring myself to open it, because I already knew what I was looking at. It wasn't handwriting that looked like mine. It was mine. Every letter, every curve, even the way I crossed my T's. It was exactly how I wrote. I looked at Mom. "Where did you get this?" She answered quietly. "It was mailed to us." When? 2 days after our wedding. A chill ran through me. I slowly pulled the letter out. There was only 1 page inside. No explanation, no date, just a few lines. "I'm so sorry. I tried everything. There's no other way. I love you both. Please forgive me." That was it. I read it again. Then a 3rd time. I kept waiting for another sentence, another page, anything that would explain what I was holding. There wasn't. "I don't remember writing this." "I know." "Then who did?" She looked me in the eyes. "I think one day you will." The words hung in the air between us. Neither of us spoke. Finally, she took a slow breath. 2 days after the wedding. "Your father was in a terrible car accident." "I know. He told me about it. He always says he was lucky." She slowly shook her head. "No, he wasn't lucky. The doctors called it a miracle. The car was completely destroyed." I swallowed. "Then how did he survive?" Mom reached into a folder she'd carried from the bedroom. She unfolded an old police report and placed it in front of me. "A witness saw someone pull your father out of the wreck before the ambulance arrived." I looked up. "A young man. He disappeared before anyone could give a statement." She turned the report toward me. "I've kept this for 28 years. 1 section had been highlighted." I lowered my eyes and read it. "Male, early 20s, brown hair, average height, average build." Then, the last line, "Small mole on the left side of the neck." The room suddenly felt too small. No, it came out as a whisper. Mom didn't say anything. She reached into the folder one last time and carefully unfolded an old newspaper. The paper had turned yellow with age. She laid it on the table. A headline near the bottom read, "Hit and run leaves 1 unidentified victim." The date was the day after my parents' wedding. According to the article, the victim had no identification. No family ever came forward. Police released a sketch to newspapers across the city, hoping someone would recognize him. Mom slowly turned the newspaper toward me. For a second, I couldn't make myself look. Part of me already knew what I was about to see. I just didn't want it to be real. Then my eyes finally met the sketch. Everything inside me went silent. I'd seen that face every single morning of my life. In the bathroom mirror. It was me. Not someone who looked like me. Not a distant relative. Me. Neither of us spoke. Outside, the neighbor's sprinkler suddenly switched on. Click, click, click. Such an ordinary sound. On the most impossible day of my life. I finally looked up. "You're sane?" My voice shook. I went back. Mom nodded. "I saved Dad." Another nod. "And I died doing it." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know how, but yes." I stared at the newspaper. None of it made sense. "If that's true, then why am I here?" She answered without hesitation. "Because it worked." I frowned. "If your father had died that day, you never would have been born." She reached across the table and gently placed her hand over mine. "So, you went back. You saved him. And because you saved him, you were born anyway. A perfect circle. No beginning, no end, just the same moment, finding its way back to itself." I looked at her phone lying on the table. The wedding video was still open, frozen on the exact same frame. Me, standing in the back row, watching my parents at the altar, saying goodbye to 2 people who had no idea who I was. My phone suddenly buzzed. The sound made both of us jump. I picked it up. Dad's cardiology follow-up. Today, 2 p.m. I stared at the reminder. Same hospital his accident happened near. Same day of the week as my parents' wedding. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Mom quietly covered my hand with hers. "You don't have to go." I closed my eyes. For a second, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe I could ignore the reminder, drive home, pretend none of this had ever happened. But deep down, I already knew. That's not how this works. I stood up, picked up my keys. I don't know if I'm closing the loop or starting it. Mom didn't try to stop me. She simply watched me walk toward the front door. As I reached my car, I paused for just a second. Then I looked into the rearview mirror. My reflection stared back at me. My eyes were wet. Tears were slowly running down my face. Exactly like the man standing in the back row of my parents' wedding. For the first time, I finally understood why he was crying. Not because he was scared, because he'd already made the decision. I started the engine, pulled out of the driveway, and drove toward the hospital. Some things don't change, no matter when you are.